Hello, my name is Daniel. Thank you for being here with me today. If you enjoy real heartbreaking cheating stories from Reddit, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me. This is a story that's been haunting me ever since I read it, about a man who built his life with someone he thought he knew, only to realize he was living beside a stranger. My name is Elijah. I'm 38 years old, and I just ended my 10-year marriage to a woman I thought I would grow up with. Her name is Samantha. She's also 38. We lived in a quiet suburb outside of Denver, Colorado. No kids, just two people who were supposed to be each other's home. We both had stable careers. I work in software sales, which keeps me on the road across the western states. Samantha's a corporate attorney with a demanding schedule that had her working 70 to 80 hours a week. Our lives were fast, full, and constantly moving, but we made it work, or at least I thought we did. Last September, the world started to tilt. Nothing major at first, just a weird phone call she didn't answer, a receipt for two when she said she ate alone. Little things. But little things add up. I started digging, following advice from people on Reddit who'd been through this exact kind of heartache. They said to watch patterns. So I did. And then I saw them shift. By November, the pieces were starting to fall into place. She was careful, incredibly so. I couldn't prove anything for months, but I had a sick feeling I couldn't shake. That's when I decided to protect myself. I hired an attorney. I hired a private investigator. I started documenting everything. By early January, the private investigator confirmed it. Photos, hotel records, voice recordings, all of it. It was more than I ever wanted to know, and somehow exactly what I needed to finally let go. Today, it's done. Or at least, the beginning of the end has arrived. At 4 p.m., Samantha was served divorce papers at her office. She won't be expecting it, not from me. She's been carrying on with a man from her firm, someone in his mid-50s with a wife and 3 daughters. They don't work in the same department. He isn't her boss. But they found time for each other. They found space for betrayal. I've already packed. The moving truck was loaded this morning and now sits outside our old house. I'm heading to Florida. I don't need to live anywhere specific. My job covers most of the country. The few things I'm taking were gifts from my family when we got married. The rest she can keep. Honestly, I don't care. 3/4 of our things are hers anyway. Let her have them. I'll be driving the truck myself. There's something symbolic about it. Me behind the wheel, steering toward whatever comes next. I've rented a small condo in Sarasota. It's not big, not flashy, but it's mine. It's quiet. I need quiet. The last half year has been a storm of silence, of pretending, of knowing and not knowing. I've cried more in the last 2 months than I did in the last 10 years, but I never let her see. I never gave her the satisfaction of watching me break. Now I'm wondering, should I tell his wife? Part of me thinks she deserves to know. Wouldn't I want to know? But then I think, am I doing it out of decency or revenge? There's a fine line, and right now, my hands are too raw from carrying broken things to know the difference. She got the papers. The calls started 15 minutes later. Her sister, her mother, texts I won't answer. I don't owe them that. I stopped for gas in South Carolina, grabbed some coffee, and decided to share this update. I spoke briefly to her sister, very carefully. I'm sure everything I said was relayed back. That's fine. Let them talk. Let them try to piece together the version of me I no longer am. The hardest call I made was to my mom, telling her why I was leaving, how I'd been betrayed, how I didn't see it coming. It was humiliating. But she didn't hesitate. "You did the right thing," she said. She's visiting next weekend. Moms are like that. They hold the pieces no one else wants to touch. As for the other man's wife, I've decided not to contact her. Not now. Maybe not ever. Maybe healing means walking away without needing to burn everything behind you. Maybe silence is its own kind of justice. I'll keep you posted once I'm settled. For now, I'm just trying to breathe. Just trying to feel like myself again. From a practical standpoint, if you're planning to walk this road, the advice I kept seeing repeated over and over again was simple. Protect yourself first. No matter how much pain you're in, no matter how much chaos you feel, it has to start there. And I did. I built a wall of legal protection between myself and the storm I knew was coming. But what about her, the other wife, the woman who's likely living the same illusion I was, sleeping beside a man who looks her in the eye and lies? I think about her more than I want to admit. And every time I do, I wonder, does she deserve to know? Am I really the one to tell her? Or would that just be me setting fire to someone else's world because mine already burned down? Plenty of people reached out to me. Friends, strangers, even voices in online forums offering their perspective. One person said, "I always assume I'd want to know if it were me." That stuck with me. But others were more cautious. They warned that if Samantha loses her job because of the affair, things could spiral. She and I make nearly identical incomes, which means a clean divorce. But if her salary disappears, I might be on the hook for alimony. I'd be punished again, not just emotionally, but financially. Is the fleeting satisfaction of revenge worth that cost? Some pointed out that revenge doesn't have to be immediate. There's time. Maybe I should wait until the divorce is finalized before telling the other man's wife. That way the legal and financial consequences wouldn't touch me. Cold logic, but sound. I even asked my attorney, who gave a very careful shrug. "It's your right," he said, "but timing is everything." And then there were others less careful, more blunt. One person said, "She deserves it. He deserves it. They made their choices. Let them live in the wreckage." That comment replayed in my head more than I'd like to admit. I pictured Samantha at her desk, being handed those papers at exactly 4 p.m., just like I planned. I imagined her face falling. I imagined her going home to our house, her house now, and walking into a space emptied of me. I almost left my wedding ring on the counter, but at the last second, I slipped it into the bottom of my suitcase. Somehow, I couldn't give her that moment. Another commenter told me a story about their aunt, how she was cheated on for 5 years, and nobody ever told her. Everyone around her knew, friends, family, even coworkers, but they stayed quiet. When the truth finally came out, it didn't just destroy her marriage, it destroyed her trust in everyone. "Let the wife know," they said. "At least give her the choice." And maybe that's the part that hurts the most. The lack of choice. I didn't get one, not really. My life was changed in secret. Maybe she deserves to face her crossroads with open eyes. But then, in a moment of painful honesty, I admitted something out loud for the first time. Both things are true. She probably would want to know, and yes, I want to hurt them. Both truths exist at the same time. I'm not proud of it, but there's something inside me that wants to see them pay, wants to see the guilt catch up with them. I want them to squirm the way I did in my own skin for months. I want them to lose sleep. That's not noble. It's just human. And I hate that about myself right now. In the end, I didn't call her. Not yet. I may change my mind. But for now, silence. As for me, I made it to Sarasota. I arrived late Friday, got unpacked Saturday. It feels strange. Everything is quiet here. Too quiet sometimes. But it's the right move. I keep telling myself that. Over and over. Samantha never heard back from me. I ignored every text, every call. Eventually, they stopped. The last one she sent simply said, "I'll sign the papers. You'll get your divorce." Well, thanks, I guess. I did have one more conversation with her sister. It started Thursday night. Careful, controlled, but she reached out again on Saturday, and this time it turned into something deeper, surprisingly helpful. She's torn, of course, wants to defend her sister, but said she understood why I did what I did. She didn't blame me, and for that, I'm thankful. There's been so much shame in this that just one person saying, "I get it," felt like a 1,000-pound weight lifting, even just a little. Her sister surprised me. After everything, I thought she'd be cold, angry, maybe even lash out. But she wasn't. While I know she's still trying to shield Samantha in whatever way she can, she told me, quietly but clearly, that she understood why I made the choices I did. She didn't blame me. That meant more than I can explain. In this mess of broken trust and quiet exits, even a small thread of grace feels like air. Since that call, there's been no hostility, just silence, and for now I'll take silence over war. A few of you asked if I've changed my mind about telling the other man's wife. The truth is, no, not yet. Leaving this behind means not dragging it with me into the next chapter. If she ever calls me, if she looks me in the eye and asks me for the truth, I won't hesitate. I'll tell her everything. But until then, I'm letting it stay in the dark. The harder part of this story is how I even got here. What pulled the first loose thread? It was last summer when things started shifting. At first, it wasn't anything huge, just little details that felt off. Samantha began drinking more. It used to be 1 glass of wine on a Friday night, then it was 3, then it was every night. Her patience started thinning too. She snapped at a waitress who got her order wrong. She glared at a kid on the light rail for being too loud. She even cursed out a guy who accidentally cut her off in line at Chipotle. None of that was like her. The moment that really made me stop and look was a night she screamed at her parents over the phone, then hung up on them. That wasn't Samantha, not the woman I married, not the woman who used to sit for hours on the phone with her mom just talking about nothing. I remember sitting on the couch after that call ended, staring at her in the kitchen as she poured another glass of wine with shaking hands, and something in me cracked. But what truly blew a hole through everything came at a wedding we attended last fall. One of our old college friends had just finalized her divorce and was in a dark place. She was miserable, insecure, and drowning in loneliness. And then, in the middle of the reception, Samantha leaned in and whispered that someone should sleep with her. "Even you," she said, "if it helps her feel better." I didn't respond. I just sat there frozen, my drink sweating in my hand. That was the moment I knew. Not what exactly was happening, but that something terrible was hiding underneath her skin. No one suggests something like that unless they're trying to justify something inside themselves. It was a guilt offering, a breadcrumb trail from a conscience too tired to lie anymore. It didn't take long after that to put things together. The man she was seeing, if that's even the word for it, was older, mid-50s, a colleague from her firm. Married, of course, 3 daughters. While I was out of town, they were meeting in hotels around the city, midday rendezvous under fake names and prepaid rooms. And when they weren't at hotels, they were at our house, my house, our guest room. That part gutted me. I didn't even realize it until nearly 6 weeks after things started to make sense. I remember standing in the doorway of that room, the guest sheets freshly laundered, and feeling like I'd swallowed glass. That room used to be for visiting friends, my parents, people we loved. Now it was ruined, tainted by someone who never should have been there. Once I figured out how they communicated, a burner phone hidden in the wheel well of her car, it was all too easy. I passed the information to my lawyer and the private investigator. What they brought back was enough to crush whatever denial I still had. There were pictures, recordings, timestamps. I watched my life collapse in crystal clear footage. The PI gave me everything: audio, video, even transcriptions. I saw them laugh at me. I heard her say things I'll never unhear. I cried until I couldn't anymore. Alone, in the car, in the shower, in the quiet before sleep, over and over. But I never told her. I never screamed. I never asked why. I just planned. And now, here I am. I know she's the one who chose betrayal, and I know I took the right steps to protect myself. That's what everyone says. That's what I tell myself. Still, I wonder how long it will take before I start believing it. Samantha's sister had offered understanding, but that didn't mean the ripple effects stopped. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could put some of the wreckage behind me. But there are always reminders, and some of them come from the most unexpected places. The other day, while grabbing a late dinner from a small market near my new place in Sarasota, I overheard a woman in line talk about how her local food bank had run dry again. Donations were low and the demand was high. Her voice cracked when she mentioned how hard it's been trying to get fresh food for her kids. She said people had already lined up before sunrise and there still wasn't enough to go around. And all I could think about was what I'd found in our fridge back in Denver during the final weeks. Produce, eggs, even organic chicken. None of it from a grocery store we'd ever shopped at. Samantha never tried to hide it. When I asked, she simply said, "Oh, I stopped by the food pantry. They had a fresh delivery today." I just stared at her, stunned. We made over $200,000 a year between the two of us. We never once missed a mortgage payment. Our pantry was stocked, our fridge full. But there she was, intentionally dressing down, driving her old Civic with the cracked bumper, walking into food banks and taking what wasn't meant for people like us. I begged her to stop. Showed her the social media comments from struggling families asking if any food was left. Their desperation was written in plain text. And still, Samantha shrugged. She said, they should have come earlier, just like that, as if it were a race and she simply ran faster. I suggested she volunteer, see the need firsthand, maybe even donate to help balance what she'd taken. But she refused, said she was being resourceful, that it wasn't a crime, and that if the food was available, anyone could take it. I didn't sleep that night. I packed a bag the next morning and drove to my brother's house in Tallahassee. I needed space to think, to breathe, to not look at her and feel disgust. She called me vindictive, said I was overreacting, told me that whether I liked it or not, she was going back to the food banks. Then the messages started. Her family, her mother, her cousin, even an uncle I hadn't spoken to in years, all started texting me, calling me cruel, selfish, ungrateful. They said I was trying to control her, that I was interfering with her right to live responsibly. I turned my phone off, but when they couldn't get through to me, they started harassing my brother. Thankfully, he stood by me, ignored them all, let me have the silence I desperately needed. I never thought this would be the thing to break me. I had survived the betrayal, the affair, the months of secrecy. But watching her steal from the mouths of people who truly needed help, it was something else. A different kind of darkness. Not a mistake, not a moment of weakness, but a choice. A deliberate, repeated choice. No, I'm not divorcing Samantha because of the food banks. That ship sailed long ago, but it confirmed what I already knew deep in my bones. She isn't the woman I married. She isn't someone I can trust or respect or even understand anymore. And here's the worst part. I still wanted to believe in her. I still hoped there was some part of the Samantha I loved buried beneath all this. But when I saw her dismiss those hungry families like they were background noise, I knew this was who she'd become. So, no, I don't think I'm wrong for needing space. I think I'd be wrong not to. I tried to reason with Samantha, I really did. I showed her the numbers, the empty shelves, the local food bank's desperate pleas for donations online. I explained how every time she brought home bags of fresh produce or cartons of eggs we didn't need, she was taking from people who genuinely didn't have enough to eat. And still, her response was cold, indifferent. She told me flat out she planned to go back again. I asked, "How can you not see how wrong this is?" She just shrugged, said the food was free and if people missed out, it wasn't her fault. That if I didn't like it, I didn't have to eat any of it. There was no guilt in her voice, no recognition of the harm, just this smug detachment that sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't about saving money. It wasn't frugality. It was selfishness, cruel, calculated selfishness. So I did the only thing I felt I could do. I told her if she didn't care who she hurt, then I'd balance the scales myself. I drove to a local grocery store, filled a cart with everything I'd seen in our fridge, fresh fruit, vegetables, deli meats, eggs, bread. I spent over $500 and I took it all to the Sarasota food pantry the same day. I unloaded each bag myself, handed it over with a quiet apology I didn't owe but needed to say. This is to replace what someone took. She didn't mean it maliciously, but people are going hungry. This shouldn't happen. He nodded. He didn't ask questions, just smiled, said thank you, and went back to stocking shelves. It didn't make me feel better, not really, but it helped me feel less powerless. At home, Samantha didn't even ask where I'd been. She didn't notice the groceries were missing. Or maybe she did and didn't care enough to mention it. Either way, the silence between us grew louder. That night, I lay awake and thought about how far we drifted. How a woman who once cried at charity commercials could now walk into food banks dressed in thrift store clothes and take food meant for single mothers and elderly veterans. And when I pushed back, her only response was to double down. The guilt no longer seemed to touch her. The fact that we earned over $200K a year didn't register. That our fridge was full, that we were never hungry, none of it mattered. She had built a justification in her mind and barricaded herself behind it. Her family, of course, defended her, said I was cruel for trying to control her, said I didn't understand the value of saving. One even called me entitled for being upset. I blocked their numbers. I couldn't take the barrage of gaslighting anymore. Samantha kept going. Every week she came home with more. Fresh baked loaves, cartons of milk, bags of potatoes we didn't even have room for. And then I'd quietly bag it all up again and donate it. It became a cycle of silent undoing. And all the while, something in me kept breaking. The woman I once believed would never hurt a soul had become someone I didn't recognize. I'd already endured the affair, already survived the humiliation of betrayal, but this chipped away at something deeper. Because cheating hurts you, but this hurts others, innocent people we'll never meet. I kept thinking of one specific moment from years ago, back when we were still newlyweds. Samantha had pulled me aside after a food drive at her office, nearly in tears because they hadn't collected enough to meet their goal. "We can do better," she said. "People are hungry." That woman? I would have followed her anywhere. I don't know where that version of her went. I don't know when she stopped seeing people as people and started seeing them as inconveniences. And now I'm just watching her disappear. I'm not filing for divorce because of the food bank. The paperwork was already in motion because of everything else. But this This is the final splinter under the skin, too small to see, too painful to ignore. Some wounds bleed, others just rot quietly until they hollow you out. I wish things had been different. I wish she had been different. But wishes don't change who someone becomes when no one's watching. After everything, I guess I should have expected my family to take her side. My sister called me heartless. My mother sent Samantha a message calling her a crybaby and saying she needed to grow up. She said I should have handled it better, that I embarrassed the family by kicking out my own sister in the middle of the night. And of course, they all conveniently ignored the reason why I did it in the first place. Samantha, bless her, didn't lash out. She didn't cry again. She just came to me quietly the next morning, her voice barely more than a whisper, and said, "You could have talked to her differently." But even then, she added, "Still, thank you for protecting me." I don't think I really understood what she meant until later that night, when I found her curled up on the edge of the bed in the guest room, staring at the wall, eyes red from holding in tears she didn't want me to see. What happened that night will stay with me longer than I'd like. My sister Nora had asked to stay with us after a fight with her roommate. I agreed, after talking it over with Samantha. There was just one rule: don't enter Samantha's bedroom. Samantha hasn't shared a room with anyone since her assault nearly a decade ago. Even with me, we sleep in separate rooms. It's the only way she feels safe enough to rest. I explained that to Nora, gently, firmly. She rolled her eyes but agreed. I offered her the guest bed, the couch, even my room. She turned all of them down, complaining about the mattress, the smell, the lack of privacy. I should have known then. At 3 a.m., I woke up to Samantha screaming. I ran down the hall and found Samantha trembling at the edge of her bed, wrapped in a blanket. Nora stood near the footboard, half-dressed, yelling back at her like she'd done nothing wrong. She'd tried to climb into Samantha's bed, in the dark, without asking. I lost it. I told Nora to pack her things and get out. She called Samantha a crybaby one more time as she walked out the door, still acting like the victim. The next day, the texts poured in. My mom, my cousin, even my dad got involved, saying I should apologize, that I overreacted, that Samantha was too sensitive. I didn't answer any of them. But it did something to Samantha. I didn't say it directly, but I could see the doubt forming in her expression, like maybe, just maybe, they were right about her, that maybe she was broken, too much. I hate that. I hate what they made her feel with just a few words on a screen. I told her again, she wasn't wrong, and I wasn't sorry. I don't know how long it'll take to rebuild the safety she lost that night. It may never be the same. But if I had to choose again, I'd still tell my sister to leave. I'd do it louder. This story isn't just about a boundary being crossed. It's about what happens when someone's pain is ignored by the people who claim to love them most. In today's world, too many people still dismiss emotional trauma, especially when it's invisible. They call it dramatic, overblown, weak. But boundaries exist for a reason, and trust, once broken, doesn't grow back easily. If someone you love has been through trauma, the best gift you can offer is respect. Respect their space. Respect their silence. Respect the rules they put in place to feel safe in a world that hasn't always been kind to them. And if you're the one who's been hurt, please remember this: you don't owe comfort to those who violate your peace. It's not your job to educate them while you bleed. Surround yourself with those who protect your boundaries, not test them. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You're surviving. And that, in itself, is strength.